Good morning, students. Today we are going to learn about the food production. What do we understand by the term food? Food is anything that what we eat to gain energy. There are two types of foods that what we normally get from our daily lifestyles and markets. One that is plant-based food and the second one is the animal-based food. The scientific way by which we get the plant-based food, it's known as agriculture, and the scientific way by which we will get the animal-based food, they are called animal husbandry or livestock farming. The plant-based foods, they are also known as crops, although crops can also be defined as the plants which are cultivated on an extensive scale over a field. So what we have learned that the crops are the large cultivation of the plants which is to be done in a scientific way. Now all the crops, they are not to be for the food purposes. Crops can be classified under the basic categories. The crops can be of different types. The first one is food crop. The second one is cash crop. The third one is plantation crop. And the fourth one is horticulture. Now we will discuss about these different types of crops. Food crop, from the name itself, it is clear that these crops are cultivated only to meet the food demand of the countrymen or the country people. So they are basically grown for the food demand in a country. The best example of the food crops are cereals, pulses, vegetables. These are the food crops. The cash crop on the other side, these are the crops that what we normally grow for the commercialization. That means we do not consume it directly, rather we sell it to the market so as to bring up the economy. The cash crops can be, of the examples are the cotton, jute, etc. Plantation crops. The plantation crops are basically the cash crops which are grown on a large scale of land in a plantation form, in a definite row. That is called the plantation crop. The example of plantation crops are tea, coconut, coffee, and spices. And the last one is horticulture, the cultivation of the ornamental plants and flowers. They are known as horticulture. So these are the basic classification of crops that what we have in our country. Now there is one more categorization of crops on the basis of sowing of seeds. Let us just learn that also. On the basis of sowing of seeds, crops can be of following types. Kharif crop, then we come to Rabi crops, and the last one is VIII crops. Kharif crop is also known as summer crop. Rabi crops, they are also known as winter crops. And VIII crops, they are basically grown when, that I will explain you later. Kharif crops, they are sown during the month of monsoon, and they are harvested during the month of October. So these crops, they basically needs too much of rainfall for their growth. On the other hand, the Rabi crops, they are sown during the month of October, and they are harvested during the period of March. So if you compare to that of Kharif and Rabi, you will see that Rabi crops, they do not require that much of rainfall. So that's the reason for which they are more conveniently grown during the winter season. VIII crops, these are the crops which basically grow from March to June. So these crops, they are sown during the March and they are harvested during June or at most to the month of July. The best example for that of the VIII crops are pumpkin, cucumber. Similarly, the Rabi crops, the example of Rabi crops are wheat, and that for the Kharif crops, that is rice or paddy, maize, etc. So the crops on the basis of their sowing seasons are of three types: Kharif, Rabi and VIII crops. Now in the next part we are going to learn how can we grow the crops. For growing the crops, the first quintessential process or the method or the step is to prepare the soil. The preparation of the soil for growing crops in large scale can be broadly classified and categorized under these parameters. And what are these parameters? The first one is, this is the preparation of soil. Okay, so how can we prepare the soil? The first is plowing. The second one is leveling. The second step for the preparation of soil is leveling. And the third step is to adding manures or fertilizers, which we can also say as improving the soil fertility. We will come to the step one after another. Plowing. What do we understand by the term plowing? Plowing is that steps where the soil is broken into chunks. The plowing could be done by the traditional plow or by the tractor. The main purpose for the plowing is to create air space in the soil such that oxygen can easily enter inside the soil and helps the root to breathe properly. The second advantage for the plowing is to help the plants to penetrate the roots deeply. We all know that the plants, they absorb the water with the help of the roots from the soil. So if they need to grow properly, then roots also need to penetrate deeply. This penetration of the roots is very much facilitated because of the proper plowing of the field. The third one is microorganisms can thrive well. So the third advantage for the plowing is that to ensure a proper survival rate for the microorganisms, which in turn actually helps in the biogeochemical cycle process to go on, and it improves the fertility of the soil naturally. And the fourth advantage of plowing are to ensure that the manure or the fertilizers could be properly mixed. So 1, 2, 3, 4. These are the 4 advantages of plowing, which is the basic and the first step towards the agriculture. The second step, that what we have already written over here, is leveling. Since after plowing we find that the field is being left with the big chunks of soil, so we need to settle or level the soil. This could be done with the help of a leveler, an equipment that actually and a leveler is the equipment which is basically added with that of the tractor, and it helps to pack in the loose soil. The advantages for that of leveling, the advantages of the leveling is to pack the loose soil next. The second advantage, it stops or prevents soil erosion. And the third step or the third advantage is the even distribution of water across the field. So leveling ensures that there is no soil erosion. The big chunks of soils, they are leveled properly to pack in the loose soil, and also it ensures the easy distribution of water such that the entire field should get proper water. The third step for the preparation of soil is to add manure or fertilizers. Manure or fertilizers, they serve as a nutrient for the plants. They are applied to the soil so as to enhance the productivity of the plants, and thus they improve the fertility of the soil. Next thing that what we are going to learn about the sowing seeds. What type of seeds should we collect before sowing? What type of seeds should we actually select? The seeds that have to be selected, it should be disease-free, healthy and viable seeds. Sometimes fungicides are also being sprayed so as to keep them absolutely uninfected from the fungus or from any kind of fungal attacks. Now the basic pattern for sowing seeds, the basic pattern for sowing seeds involves two things. The first thing, seeds to be sown at right depth, and the second step is that seeds to be sown at correct intervals. Where lies the advantages for this sowing pattern? If seeds are sown at the right depth, then they will obviously getting the amount of air for their germination. If the seeds are sown at a very depth of the soil, then they will not receive the amount of air for that what is being needed for their germination. And if they are sown too close to the surface of the soil, so the granivorous birds, they may feed upon the seeds. Similarly, if seeds they are sown very close to each other, then when the seedlings will grow, there will be a tough competition for the resources among the seedlings. Hence, we need to ensure that the seeds to be sown at correct intervals. So, proper spacing is mandatory before sowing the seeds in the field. Techniques for sowing the seeds. The techniques that what we generally use for sowing the seeds are: the first one is broadcasting. The second one is seed drill. The third one is transplantation. Broadcasting, it's a traditional method, and obviously it is easier than any other methods too. What is broadcasting? You take a handful of seeds and you scatter it over the field. What is the actual disadvantage for broadcasting? It never ensures the proper spacing of the seeds. Some seeds get clumped together. There can be the just wastage of spaces, and if the seeds are clumped together, that will lead into not a very good germination of the seeds, because there will be tough competition for the resources as soon as they germinate out. So the best possible way for the sowing of seeds is a seed drill. What is a seed drill? It is basically a bowl containing the seeds, and to that there are different tubes which is being attached to it. So the seed ball is attached with that of the tractor. As soon as the tractor moves and it makes the furrow on the soil, the seeds from the seed ball, it just pass into the soil in correct spacing through the seed tubes. There lies the utility and the advantage of the seed drill. Some plants like tomatoes, chilies and onions, they cannot be sown directly in the crop field. So what has to be done for them? They need to be grown primarily in the nursery bed. Once when the seeds they grow into seedlings in the nursery beds, then these seedlings they are hand-picked and then they are re-sown and or replanted in the normal field. So this is known as transplantation. The basic advantages for the transplantation is that it ensures only the healthy seedlings to get planted finally in the crop field, as also once when the farmers they are transplanting the seedlings, they are actually providing enough space for the seedlings to grow. So here lies the advantage of the transplantation. Next we come to the improving of soil fertility. How can we improve the soil fertility? Improving the soil fertility. This could be done by the following techniques. The first one is fallow land. What is a fallow land? A fallow land is a piece of land which is not allowed to cultivate for more than one seasons. This actually helps the soil to regain their fertility through the natural process of decomposition of organic matter by the microorganisms. But since the fallow land or the fallow field is a very slow process, so we need to think over something that actually benefit us for performing the entire process of agriculture. And here lies the success of crop rotation. So the second technique that what we are going to discuss is crop rotation. Students, here I need to tell you that not all plants require the same amount of nutrients from the soil. So some plants require more nutrients, some plants require less, or somehow the different types of nutrients. So what is crop rotation? The practice of growing different crops in succession in the same field is known as crop rotation. How can we do that? Let us just consider an example of crop rotation. Example, paddy followed by the cultivation of pulses, followed by the cultivation of maize. Like in this way, So the nutrients that which is required for the paddy is not required by the pulses. Again, the nutrients which will be required by the pulses will not be required by the maize. So when the pulses and the maize are grown successively, the soil can regain the nutrient which will be again used for the cultivation of paddy. In this way, the crops can be rotated, the crops can be grown successively one after another, and this enhances the soil fertility. The third technique is nitrogen fixation. So we have already discussed about fallow land, we have discussed about the crop rotation. Now we are going to discuss about nitrogen fixation. What do we understand by nitrogen fixation? The conversion of the atmospheric nitrogen into the soluble form of nitrates or nitrites, that is known as nitrogen fixation. Why is nitrogen necessary for the plants? The nitrogen is necessary for the plants to make up their proteins, and we all know that the proteins are the building block for all living organisms. The plants, they cannot just get the atmospheric nitrogen. The nitrogen should enter the plant body in the soluble form of nitrates and nitrites. So here lies the advantages of nitrogen fixation. Now for nitrogen fixation, we will take reference of the leguminous plants or the pulses. What is so much special for these leguminous plants or the pulses? Suppose this is a leguminous plant like pea, and this is its root system. So we will find that there are certain solen-like structures grown on their roots for these leguminous plants. These are known as root nodules. What are actually these root nodules all about? The root nodules are nothing but the multiplication of the nitrogen fixing bacteria. So the nitrogen fixing bacteria like Azotobacter, Rhizobium, they multiply in the root hairs and they create these root nodules. Now these type of bacteria, they are specialized in the sense that they can convert the atmospheric nitrogen into nitrates or in ammonia. So now these nitrates, that what they produce will be supplied to the plant So the nitrates or the ammonia, that what they produce, they will supply it to the plants, and in return the plants provide them the sugar that they have already produced as an outcome of photosynthesis. So here we find that there is a mutual cooperation between these bacteria and these leguminous plants. So this type of mutual cooperation is known as symbiosis. Okay. So here in the symbiosis, what we find that these bacteria, they are harbored on the roots, they are growing on the roots of the leguminous plants, they convert the atmospheric nitrogen into nitrates, they supply these nitrates to the plants, and in return, what are they receiving? They are receiving the sugar from the plant body for their own survival. So this mutual cooperation is known as symbiosis. Once when this plant dies, the bacteria and a large part of the nitrogen that they have already fixed inside the plant body or been taken up by the plant body is released into the soil. This benefits the other plants. It is estimated that about 2/3 of the nitrogen which are fixed by the leguminous plants or the leguminous crops like beans, peas, grams, they are available for the next crop. So this is how the nitrogen fixation actually helps in improvising the soil fertility of a particular field very naturally without the adding of manures and fertilizers. Thank you, students.